Okay, hey everyone, this is Edwin O'Vera from Edwin O'Vera Dance and Creative Services. And this particular evening, I'm going to be interviewing Joey Hernandez. I met Joey, I would say less than a year and a half ago during a Soul Matter Prime Dance Convention, which was held out in, I believe it was like the Waukesha area. It was pretty amazing to slowly be introduced into what you've been doing as a professional dancer, as an artistic director, and the message that you've been, spreading and informing on to others, which is, you have this pretty debilitating, one called disease, and yet you still find ways to overcome it, and you're doing it through your movement, through your expression of your passion for dance, and also for, the fact that you go and teach so many places throughout the Midwest, spreading your knowledge and movement, and also, again, your story, what's going on with yourself. I'm just going to inform you a little bit more. Joey Hernandez is a member of the National Dance Association. He's the artistic director of Resilience Dance Company, which is based out of Rockford, Illinois. He's the first in his generation to graduate from college, receiving a BA in Dance and Health and Science from Beloit College. He was also studied under some pretty amazing choreographers and dancers such as Chris Johnson, Robert Lewis, Cedric Gardner, who I know very well, based here in Milwaukee, Paige Cunningham, and many others. You've also done a lot of stuff with conventions, teaching in them, performing in them. And there's one thing interesting. We have a mutual friend in common, which is Jackie Nowicki.
Yeah, me and Jackie judged together for our dance competition.
Yo, my goodness, yeah, Jackie and I, we performed quite a bit within Palavala, so I had no idea she was into the whole other side of, competition and performance and judging, and so it's just nice to know we have mutual friends.
She's an awesome lady.
Yeah, and, there's more to come, so I want, and the other thing is, I ran into your mom recently at one of these events that Cedric Gardner put on, which was, it was really nice just to chat with her, about being a mom and also as a parent and seeing our kids, grow and develop as artists or as people. And your passion is in movement, so I love to hear how it started. So the first thing I always ask everyone is, how did you know in the early stages that you were, interested in movement, whether you're like a little kid, a toddler, or maybe something that your parents noticed that might have not picked up right away?
So I got into dance because I'm the youngest of four in my family. By quite a few years, there's about a 9-year difference between me and my next closest sibling. And my brother started taking free hip-hop classes at a studio in Beloit Dance Academy when he was about 13, 14 years old. So I was just at the studio with my mom hanging out. So that's when she signed me up for dance classes, and that was kind of my first day. I started with jazz and tap class, and then from there progressed to boxing and everything else, so on and so forth from there. Kind of how I got into the dance industry, the dance world as a little kid. Because otherwise I was always a big athlete, big baseball player, football player. That was really sports were a really big passion for me growing up. And then I found a passion for the arts as well.
Did you ever try fusing some of your, athletic movements into the dance? You know what I mean? Like, trying to analyze movements, say, like as a baseball player when you swing the bat, or, as you slide in,
Yeah, all the time. It's pretty much, athletics and dance go hand in hand in cross-training. Dancers are athletes. They just train their body in a different way for a different setting. Especially with for example, like the abdominals, because we train the abdominals to work our deeper abdominals, because with dance, especially contemporary modern, we're doing a lot more contraction work and a lot more stability compared to football, where we want to train those outer abdominals for impact or collision and things of that nature. So, but yeah, I definitely grow and take a lot of my movement and especially like my teaching and training. Some of my athletic background teaching for me is universal. It just depends on what subject matter you're teaching. So.
I got it. Joey, did you, as you were growing up, what was because right now I know you personally just because of what I saw you doing the convention and reviewing your videos. It seems like you kind of fall under the category, and I hate putting categories because again, one day we may be interested in this style of dance, but and really have a passion for another. But just to kind of for others to understand, I mean, you're incredibly gifted with contemporary as well as like hip hop or freestyle. But growing up, what was the one or two things that really caught your attention?
It was crazy. I actually grew up mainly like the studio I grew up at, where we were a big tap and boxing studio. So like when you watch a lot of my contemporary work and hip hop work, that's where a lot of my musicality comes from, with my movement and things like that, and especially like with footwork and working on the fourth arch with all the tap work and stuff like that. So those were the big things growing up that I was known for. Not so much the lyrical contemporary stuff until I went to Beloit College and started training in that more. And that's where my artistry, my contemporary work started growing and evolving. So it's kind of been a full-on switch because I really don't teach tap that much anymore except for a couple of beginner level classes here and there, but I love to put my tap shoes on and get down every once in a while, so it's great.
That's for me personally, that's one style of movement that I slowly have been drawn towards, wanting to learn more about it, just because I always find myself either, tapping something with my hands or with my feet, even if it's incorrect. Like, I don't care, it's, trying to express rhythm or move or sound through my body. And just recently I did an interview with a gentleman named Anthony Locasio, who was in Tap Dogs, and it was pretty amazing to hear his story, how he got into it and everything. And yeah, so it's interesting how that applies, right? Those techniques of tapping then transition into another form of movement, which is...
Yeah, I'm a firm believer that you should train in everything because all styles are going to contribute something to your training in one way, shape, or form. Hip-hop, so much body awareness and different ways to use your body compared to a contemporary modern class, compared to a tap class. So, people that are just specializing, they're narrowing their focus, they're only becoming trained in certain aspects where they could be a lot more well-rounded and start blending. When I picture contemporary, I picture pulling from all different genres and music movement together. That's why I always say I'm kind of a jack of all trades. I'm not really a specialist in anything. I just know a little bit about everything and put it together and kind of form my shape on it. Because, everything in dance has pretty much been done before. We're not really reinventing the wheel as artists and choreographers. We're kind of putting our spin on it and our thought process on it and our movement analysis and things of that nature.
Yeah, that's, what you're talking about is really such a beautiful thing when you're, the ability to say, I'm going to take movement from everywhere and anywhere and then fusing them together. That's one thing I experienced when I was performing with Pilavolus is how, you may get a classically trained dancer coming in the room and then get somebody who's a capoeira maestra and then somebody else who's doing ninjutsu or somebody else who's doing, professional swimming, and you fuse those four styles of movement together and you get a absolutely crazy piece, because of that simple fact that it's different movement intelligence, different languages coming together, speaking one,
Yeah, and you have a more diverse conversation on the stage, and it's just a lot more interesting. And that's where artists just need to focus, watch YouTube, watch videos, find art, but at the same time, still just think about your voice and how you want to move, because the people that revolutionized dance and art wasn't because they were trying to follow some trend, they were just expressing how they like to express. When you think of Martha Graham and Paige Cunningham and the guy, one of my favorite stories is his name escapes my thought process, but the guy who figured out, how to create not popping, but locking because he was trying to figure out how to do the funky chicken. And the next thing you know, he brings an entire art form out of this thing that he was trying to figure out. And that's what it is. Sometimes you just think about trends come because other people think something is cool. It's like most of the time people are just dancing how they want to dance and how they want to express. And next thing you know, people are trying to follow that trend or say it's cool. Where do all these mainstream phrases come from, like a whip or a nay-nay? it's people are just dancing how they want to dance and expressing. So that's the interesting part of it.
Yeah, and then the thing is, because, say, that video, that moment is being captured, then what happens is that because it was so truthful, so raw, so original, it spreads fast because it's so, I don't know, it's a truthful message, you know, whether it's somebody speaking something, a piece of poetry, or somebody dancing a hell of a piece of choreography, you know. It doesn't happen all the time, but you know, there are those moments where it just really breaks out, and you're like, oh my God, it touches you, it moves you. But speaking of that, I was looking at your videos, and the dance that really connected me very well is the one called Hurt. You were dancing at some convention, and it was your company. Who was it? It was I think it was Johnny Cash's music.
Yeah, that wasn't one of my pieces. That I never choreographed. That was a guest choreographer, but that was So that was wonderful work by a girl named Jennifer Kopka. So, and I brought her in to work with the girls, but that was it was awesome. Yeah. A lot of my work, I don't post a lot of work on YouTube or Vimeo. A lot of my work is just on my personal Facebook page and things like that. So.
Oh, I got it.
Because I like sharing my work, and I like seeing it as like a progression, but at the same time, you can't replace that feeling of being in the classroom setting and learning it and being there, especially in this generation of social media. You can't replace the spur of the moment and the educational side. Because I know when a lot of people learn from me, and the reason they enjoy my work is because I usually try to connect it with real-life events and things I go through my life and share it through movement, and take risks with that. You know, there's always kind of, especially my contemporary piece, there's always some deeper meaning. I very rarely do a piece and teach it just for, like, the sake of steps or movement. There's always something that hopefully everybody can relate to in some way, shape, or form. And that's what makes people cool, because we always remember how people make us feel. If it's sad, if it's good, if somebody was putting us down or making us feel insecure about ourselves. Those are things that resonate with us more than, oh, that was 4 pirouettes, that's cool. You know, I wish I could do that type of feeling.
It's interesting, yeah. If people just go for the wow factor, for the tricks, for the intricate steps, it's very surface. And what you're talking about is you're causing, you're going to the root of something, you know, like a despair, mistrust, or, you know, and it's like, we learned it in the company when I was dancing clubs. We learned it as like psychology behind the movement. Why are you doing that particular phrase of movement? What are you trying to express, you know?
Yeah, and I'm a big firm believer, like, I try to teach life through dance. I guess that's kind of my mantra with my teaching, because everybody can be a professional dancer, but everybody can dance in some way, shape, or form. There's only so many spots behind Britney or Janet or whoever the pop artist is at that time. But everybody, if you think about why you started dance in the first place, and it's because you enjoyed it, you liked it, usually because we love music, or a lot of people say, I need to be able to express something, but I can't put it in words. You know, you hear that all the time. So, but the life lessons you can take from dance go into anything, you know, working towards a goal that you don't necessarily know that you're going to be rewarded for, because for whatever outside factor that you can't control, you know, whatever it may be, your hair color, your height, just the way you move, because the way you move in dance isn't for everybody. But as long as you enjoy it, you love it, and it makes you feel good, keep going for it. Because we're all at different points in our journey. So.
Now, let's talk about your health. Like, how you discovered at the age of 14 that you were dealing with Crohn's disease. You know, how did that whole thing unfold?
Yeah, I'll give a brief synopsis without getting into all the crazy, gory details of it. So I was 14 years old, so it was my freshman year at high school, so roughly year 2003-2004 school year. And I was playing freshman football. I was the running back on the team, and I was having major stomach pain and frequent, I guess you could say, bathroom visits, bowel movements, things of that nature. And there was actual blood in my stool, so that was the very first, like, alarming issue. So, and with playing football, we just had a game, so I thought maybe I took a really bad hit, might be something with my kidneys or my back or whatever it may be causing that issue. And we went to the doctors. They gave me, blood tests and CT scan and MRIs, and they ended up doing a colonoscopy when I was awake and a colonoscopy when I was under anesthetic or anesthesia when I was sleeping. And at that point, they could clarify the fact that I had Crohn's disease compared to ulcerative colitis or irritable bowel syndrome, and a vast amount of numerous diseases that fall under the gastroenterology field of diseases, I guess you could say. So, and that's how it all started. I had those issues for about 5 years with all the gastro issues, and then it developed into some worse symptoms with rheumatoid arthritis. For people who don't have a solid background or understanding of what Crohn's disease technically is, it's inflammation in the body that's typically in the lower intestinal tract or the colon, things of that nature, anywhere in between with the inflammation. So.
Now, what are Joey? What are some things that you're doing? Because this is a really serious issue, man. As you're helping me understand it.
Yeah, major symptoms that you can have are severe stomach cramps to the point where you're pretty much immobile. Things like, for me, like when I got it at 14, things it did was lack of nutrition and absorption through the colon. So I was being malnourished because everything I was eating, I wasn't getting all the nutrients from. So therefore, it also caused a height deficiency for me because during my prime growth years, I wasn't getting my necessary nutrition to allow me to grow. For example, I went from 5th grade to 6th grade. I grew from 4'10" to about 5'5", 5'6", and then from after that, I might have grown an inch. So that's where I'm at, about 5'6" and a half. So those are some of the complications that come with Crohn's, but then I've also had a thing called pyoderma gangrenosum, which is about 1 out of 50,000 Crohn's patients, which is almost like gangrene or necrosis of the skin, and I've had a couple issues with that.
I saw an image of that. Yeah.
Yeah, on my right shin, and then also on the instep of my left heel. So I had to get surgery for that. That leads into more issues later on in my life, complications. So.
Jesus, man. And you're such in good spirits. This is it's simply amazing, you know. I mean,
I wouldn't change anything about getting the disease. I just wish I would have got it a little later on in life, because it's tough to deal with that as a teenager. I'd much rather, maybe get it in my early 20s or mid-20s. I feel like I'd be better equipped to handle something of that severity.
I got it. And at what point did you start, pursuing, like, for example, what you're doing with Dance for Change, right? Raising money and then donating it to the, forgive me, it's the Crohn's Society. I'm incorrect, so I do apologize. But it's the Crohn's Colitis Foundation of America, ccfa.org. So at what point did you start realizing that, I'm going to try to use my passion for movement to help raise money for this? It started in 2013, actually, because I always struggled growing up because I was kind of embarrassed about it during my teen years to kind of talk about the disease. So as I got older, I always wondered, what was the purpose? Why me? I was always, very gifted athletically. Things came easy for me in school. And, out of nowhere I got this disease. There's no hereditary connection in my family and things of that nature. So that's kind of when I went to Beloit College. I decided to double major in dance, and then at first pre-med because my pediatrician was a big idol for me growing up. But I realized I couldn't do everything. It was just dancing and trying to put the hours into study. Just didn't work out. It was kind of one of the first times I kind of failed at school. So then I tried to connect it with health and society and just understanding my body. That's really what piqued my interest with the health career field.
and also having a backup plan with my dancing if that didn't work out for me. So fast forwarding that to 2013, I came back from doing a summer contract with the show Legends in Concert out of Las Vegas. It's the longest running show in Vegas. I believe it's the 30th season this year. It's Legends in Concert and Jubilee are the two longest shows out there on the Strip. So they're great shows. Go check it out. Legends is kind of like America's greatest tribute show. So I was a backup dancer with people who portrayed Michael Jackson or Lady Gaga or Elvis or the Blues Brothers. So it was a fun 3-month contract. I got to travel the East Coast. I learned it in Vegas and did that. So when I came back home to Wisconsin, it made me realize, what makes me different than the individuals that I know in the dance field, and the fact that I have this great overcoming story of my health. And, I wanted to figure out how I could put these two things together. Well, why not do in-studio conventions or guest classes to raise funding, because I do have lots of debt from medical, because I come from a lower middle class Latino family. I grew up on a farm west of Beloit, Wisconsin, and my parents pretty much maxed out all their credit trying to, pay for my bills, and I just wanted to find a way to help raise the money for my cause, kind of like a benefit. So that's why I always say I don't operate as a 501c. It's a Crohn's benefit, because I do get a portion of the money raised, and, that helps pay for medical bills and things that arise with me in that facet of my life. So, and then I donate a portion of the proceeds to the Crohn's Foundation. So, I just want to make sure I'm very clear with that, because I'm always upfront with any studio I work with about that fact. So when I go into the studios, I'll teach class, and I'll share my story at the end, and I usually bring my mom with me as well, because it's very difficult for me, parents and family, to deal with that. Even though it's not cancer, Crohn's is a disease that there is no cure for currently, and it is debilitating. Someday I could end up in a wheelchair, or, have a portion of my intestinal tract removed or have a colostomy bag. So those are some of the major complications that can arise from this disease, and I want to educate people about it and go from there. So 2013, I came back from Vegas, and I had the ability to teach at a studio, DeForest Dance in DeForest, Wisconsin, and I met a young lady that wrote me after class about, first time taking my class, how she wrote in her journal about how the class was more than dance for her. She learned a lot about life, and she wanted to take that with her, and that's when I connected the dots, because the following weekend I taught at a studio in Pageant, Illinois, and I had a young lady who messaged me on Facebook afterwards saying my class was the first time that in 3 years that she has ever been able to dance in a studio and look at herself in the mirror and feel joy in dancing, because she suffered from severe depression and body image issues. So she struggled with that a lot. And that was kind of the birth of this whole Dance for Change movement that I've been working on and doing for the last 3 years. And I just want to take it even further, because I feel like my life goal, for my life to mean something, I need to go and share, dance and share my image and share my story with as many people as possible while I'm on this earth. So.
I got you, man. Well, you're doing a wonderful thing, and it's touched, and it's gonna keep touching more people's lives,
Yeah, and that's I'm a firm believer of that, and that's what drives me to get up every morning and go teach and do what I do and work out. Right now, I'm doing MMA training to make sure my body's in shape to the dance industry, because the body is what we use as our tool, so we gotta take care of it. We gotta sharpen it, because as soon as that goes, yes, you have your mind, but it's a little bit harder to do things without your body.
That's so true, because this, as movers, that's what people are paying us for, right? Whether it's teaching a class or traveling far to do a production or something. It's our body's what's quite a bit generating a lot of income,
Yeah, for sure. And I'm a firm believer too is as dancers and artists, you can make a career out of this, but it's going to take a lot of work, and you have to learn to have self-discipline and push yourself. because a lot of the people I know that are successful in the dance industry are some of the hardest workers I've ever met in my life. You know, they always think, you know, I'm not going to let somebody else outwork me.
Yeah, you better. For me, it's like I'm gonna stay up as long as I can and keep working. You know,
Yeah.
It's the truth. The truth. A lot you pay, the more focus and effort and energy you put into your craft, you'll see more results. You know, but you got to stick with it. Sometimes you get the bumps in the road, and that's okay. You know.
Yeah, you gotta believe in yourself. Nothing's ever guaranteed, and your time, everybody's day will come. I always really believe that everybody's day will come. So, like, if you don't book an audition, it just wasn't your day that day. You just gotta keep going, keep believing, keep working. And that's the beauty of life. It's all about the journey. You know, I wanna have a great movie at the end when they show my life story. I don't want to just kind of, you know, just be Joey having success, and success. I want those pitfalls.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is people have to understand there's going to be a lot of failure, and just getting used to the fact that you improve so much every time you fail. You're succeeding in one way. It's showing you where you need a weak spot, and weak is okay. You know, there's nothing wrong with being frail and saying, well, I have to improve in this area. Oh, you know, I'm bad at public speaking. I'll work on that. Oh, my legs are not as strong as they used to be. Maybe I'll develop this so that I can really do these turns or these slides, you know?
Yeah, because when you fail, you never lose because you always gain experience.
Joey, what's inspiring you right now? Like, say, have you read a good book lately, or maybe somebody's music, or even someone else's, like, say, choreography or something? You know, another dancer in a different part of the world is moving something, you know?
Right now for me it's kind of weird because I just recently got in a relationship about 6 months ago for the first time in 5 years, and I've realized a lot about, as dancers, like, dance is a beautiful thing, but at the same time you have to be a person as well, because you don't have stories to share and stories to tell through your movement if you're just a dancer. You live in the studio, because then you're only one-sided. So I guess that's my inspiration right now is, you know, redeveloping interests I have, and, you know, taking trips and traveling and experiencing new things instead of just, like, realizing I don't have to work 24/7. I do, but at the same time I need to make sure I'm developing my whole self as an individual, because otherwise you're going to run out of things to develop. So I guess that would be my biggest inspiration right now, is kind of just to take a back seat and reinvigorate myself to get back into it. And that's really helped for me, at least at this point in my life. But otherwise, I always find inspiration out of, you know, a bunch of different stuff. People, text, you know, just thinking about issues, conversations, personal struggles in my life, or things like that. I think it's very important to just, like, catch up with friends and go get coffee and just talk about life and anything that arises.
Joy, you mentioned earlier about the fact that you were training this MMA movement. When you're looking at that, what style within the MMA training, whether it's like, you know, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, or whether you're doing, like, say, kettlebell stuff, or you know, some, like, extreme stretching or whatever, what's kind of inspiring you within that range of movement vocabulary?
Right now it's just, like, I'm mainly training in boxing, and then, like, kickboxing, we just started picking that up. Because I was just looking to, like, for a different way to train my body compared to just, like, weightlifting and running and things like that. I wanted to get some cardio. And just, like, the way they sit on their back leg, or, like, the way they shuffle their feet. As a boxer, you don't want to have your feet close, and you want to stay on the angle. And as far as, like, cutting and getting movement like that, staying on the balls of your feet. Just, like, different ways of punching, and, like, say in, like, hip-hop, doing, like, aggressive movements, like, if you want to throw, like, a hook or a jab, and, like, using your elbows. So instead of just, like, pointing at something with your finger, you can point with, like, your elbow or like your knee or your foot and just looking at it from a different perspective. Instead of just going with the common thing that you want to do, maybe there's like a different body part that you can use to do that. And that's what I picked up the most from it, and like the flexion in the side of the rib cage. Say if you're trying to like dodge a punch and things like that.
There was a woman who I was dancing with, and at one point she was showing me how to throw a punch because there was a sequence of stuff that we were doing in the choreography. And I asked her, I said, how are you throwing this punch? She's like, I'm not throwing it from my shoulder. She's like, I'm throwing it from my hip. Like, it's the origin of the punch is coming from the way I'm rotating my pelvis, bringing my, like, say, for example, she's throwing a right jab. She's throwing it from her right hip, which then is channeling up through her shoulder into her arm. So in a sense, what you're talking about, pointing, you're not really pointing to your finger. I mean, if you're, like, when you're reaching out, when you're extending the line of energy or focus out of your elbow, like, it's, it's kind of like that. You're not just, you see some people when they do the hip-hop movements, they're, like, directly physically pointing with their hands, but you're saying, whether, like, you're throwing a jab, you're throwing it through the elbow focus point versus...
Yeah, and it wants to start with, because in boxing, all your power comes in your hips.
Mm-hmm.
It all comes from your hips. And right now I've learned that's worked out really well for me because of my baseball background and firing the hips and swinging the bat and things like that. So the hardest part is, though, when you throw a punch, you got to stay on that back leg. You don't want to lean in too far because then you expose yourself. So it's been a great journey because I liked trying things out of my comfort zone. Try something new.
Oh, sorry, you're saying trying something?
Yeah, always try something new. Take risks. I started living in Chicago recently, and there's a UFC gym by, and I'm like, okay, yeah, let me walk in and just try this out. And it's been a lot of fun.
I was going to say, have you heard of a gentleman named Ido Portal?
No, I'm not familiar at the moment.
Yeah, the reason why I'm bringing it up is because he's a gentleman who's based out of Tel Aviv, or I think a little bit north, maybe like in Jaffa or Haifa or something. Anyway, he calls himself a movement artist. Basically, he was a former capoeira dancer, and then started breaking his own paradigm. Like you said, you don't always want to be just a dancer. So he started exploring other styles of movement, from MMA fighting, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, juggling, like climbing, dancing. And I bring that up because of the simple fact that, like, again, you're fusing so many different style of movements. I was wondering, you should take a look at it and stuff, because I find it so fascinating. There's a whole surge of people now coming from all over the world who are talking about just a simple fact of learning to be efficient movers, whether, you're a dancer. Like, for example, sometimes dancers, how many times do dancers do, like, inversions, as in backflips or tumbling or leaps, and I'm not saying like what is that called? I forgot the gymnastic move. Where you kind of do like almost a cartwheel, an aerial, I think it's called, right? Where you do like a one-sided.
Yeah, an aerial is a no-handed cartwheel.
Yeah, so I'm saying, but like imagine, I saw a photo of you doing like a backflip. So, incorporating other spatial awareness and movement vocabularies into your routines.
Yeah, you definitely need to do that because that's how you explore possibilities and different movement. I like to explore between, a lot of gestural stuff, to help with the storytelling elements, because sometimes it's hard to express a story with a flex turn into a shunne, into like a calypso or a cathedral layout. So you have to have those elements. I think about trick steps more or less as transitional steps, because how can I get from point A to Z without necessarily walking or running? That way you're exploring your vocabulary in a different way and connecting everything.
Got it. Joey, within your company, how many dancers do you have? Is it 6? 6 female?
It varies. I decided, because I started Resilient 4 years ago based out of Rockford, Illinois, because I want to give a program. I'm from the State Line Dance Community, which is the lower part of central Wisconsin and the northern section of northern Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to offer a program that was more about mentorship because it was more about less is more compared to a studio setting where you had a lot of kids on your competition team because it was hard to give everybody the individual attention that they wanted and deserved. And for me, I'm so passionate about dance. Sometimes the students' passion wouldn't match mine during my young teaching years between 18 to like 22, so I'd get very frustrated with that. So I like to work with students that are very passionate about dance and want to learn about the business side as well because you can't just be a great dancer. You have to understand that you're an entrepreneur and that you need to be able to sell yourself as an artist. Because if you can't sell yourself, then how are you going to ever work and make a career out of it? So that's where it came after my college years at Beloit. I wanted to start a program that taught kids almost like a pre-college education. That way when they walked in the first day, they had an idea of what modern was and didn't come from a comp background and was wondering, why am I doing pleadings on the floor and who's Martha Graham? Because that was always a rude awakening. That was my first college modern class. You know, they had the drum out and we were doing pleadings and I didn't do one big giant, Russian or leap in second. And I'm like, this isn't dance. This isn't what I know dance is. What is a triplet? Oh, that's a chaîné turn. Okay. Or a pas de bourrée. Okay, this makes sense now. And just to have them, start working on their bios and their resumes and their dance reels and their website and kind of have them have a rough mock-up. They don't have to be the best thing in the world because they don't have that much to add to them at this point because they're still young artists as dancers, but they need to learn how to, music edit and things like that. So I try to touch on those other aspects compared to, strictly dancing and movement, and that's what we're doing in the studio. Let's focus on composition and marketing and all these other elements that you need that people don't necessarily talk about besides okay, you need to work on your plies or your alignment or this or that. So, but yeah, I do have lessons, usually about 10 to 15 kids. I do high school, so we'll have high school, which is like 14 to 18. I'll also take up to 19, and then I'll have like a middle school, so that'll range between like 10 to 13-year-olds, but they won't focus as much as the company kids will on the professional development material.
Got it. And when the kids go and perform their work, are they going to competitions, whether it's, the competition circuit, or are they doing like just showcases within the community and demoing their work, like say like at community centers or maybe at university settings?
They do both. Like we did a show at Beloit College. We came back and performed there. And then we also do like a Dance for Change showcase, which is kind of like my take on like a recital showcase for the community. But then we also take, instead of tickets, we take a donation for the Coronavirus Foundation, so it's tying everything together. But on the comp circuit, because I do work as a competition judge, we do the competition side of it. But for me in competition, I'm very in between, because there is no standard for dance competition. If you think about it, it comes down to personal preference. Because think about what you can dance, they don't market it as America's best dancer, they market it as America's favorite dancer. Because we all come in with bias, You get a 3-person judging panel who may have a background in hip hop, and another lady owns a studio in Houston, Texas, and her background is ballet and modern, and then you have the person next to me who grew up and did dance teams, so they have a big background in pom and cheer and that genre. So it's tough because we all, as judges on a panel, we all bring a different viewpoint. Like with me, when I judge, I really judge depending on artistry and movement analysis because the person next to me may be a wonderful ballerina and she can compliment on your technique. As we do these 2.5-minute feedback sessions via the microphone and video critiques and things of that nature. So when we go to comp, I always tell the kids that your job is to give a professional performance and do the artist's work. So whoever's piece you're doing, do the work as that artist wants their work intended to be on stage. And if you do it that way, that's the biggest reward because your dance career can never be, judged or compared to a $5, trophy that, the company should buy, because we don't remember that stuff. I have boxes of trophies at home and big trophies, but it's the memories and the process and the time that you're on the stage. So that learning process is so important that goes into it compared to the cumulative score, because there's so many outside factors, depending on if you performed in the morning or if you performed after a certain group, or, you know, maybe somebody messed up that day. You don't know. So it's all about getting on the stage and working on those performance skills. And that's the biggest thing.
Man, that's wonderful. Joy, what are some of your current collaborations that you have going on, whether, for example, you're teaching at a studio or you're doing another convention? You know, what's going on for you over the next, like, say, a couple months?
A lot of stuff, man. Right now, my schedule's jam-packed. I teach at a lot of studios in the Midwest. Like, for example, Mondays I'm in Madison, Wisconsin at Synergy Dance Academy. I have my Resilience Dance Company that's based out of Rockford, Illinois. It's at the Gymnastic Academy of Rockford. So that's a mentorship program, and there is a studio portion. And then I'm also partnering with another lady named Miss Heather Danielle. She runs the Resilience Chicago out of the Athenaeum Theater, so we have that going. Wednesdays, I'm at Beth Fowler School of Dance in Genoa, Illinois. Tuesday, Thursday, I'm just starting up with this, but I'm actually taking over the hip-hop program as the associate lecturer of that at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, so I'll be doing that this semester. So that will be fun, and weekends are dedicated to flying out and judging for a various amount of competitions between StarQuest, The Floss Talent, Shake the Ground, and then on the convention circuit, I work with Solid Ground Dance Convention, so I'll be doing that in 2016, as well as my Dance for Change in-studio conventions and guest class. So a lot of wonderful things going on. I'm a busy guy, so.
You know, that's a beautiful thing. It's better to be busy and keep the momentum rolling than to have patches of stuff here and there. And I was going to say, you're kind of like a vagabond. You keep traveling. But again, you know, you have to. This is we work in the entertainment industry. There are moments where you have a lot of success and run. And I'm not just saying you, I'm saying people, artists in general, you know, like especially dancers, like there's a moment, maybe 2 or 3 year span where people really want you and you're high demand, and other years you have to keep putting yourself out there, you know,
that's where I look at it right now. I'm in my peak of my career right now. You know, I'm 27 right now, going to be 28, and things 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. You know, you have that 5-year peak window that you want to maximize on those opportunities. So. And I just love teaching. Like, teaching is my passion. I love performing, but at this point in my life, education is my thing. I say, you know, I'm a good choreographer, I'm a good dancer, but I think teaching is what I'm really great at, if I had to grade myself. Because I feel like I really connect the in-studio experience with life, and the kids, I think, always take away something more than just a pirouette or a combo, because you're going to learn thousands of combos in your life, and you're going to be good at some of them, you're going to be great at some of them, and you're going to fail at a lot of them as well. But you're also going to forget a lot of them.
That's for sure. Especially when you're under a time crunch. You're like, oh, I have to learn this much choreography? Okay, got it, move on.
Yeah, for
no,
sure.
man. You know, this last section of stuff I want to talk about has to do with what you mentioned earlier, and I'm a firm believer of it, you know, which has to do about a lot of times especially young freelance dancers, even dancers in general, they don't see themselves as a business. They overlook that. They focus so much on their technique, as, you know, their turnouts, their leaps, their flexibility, their image, their physical image. But again, you know, are you, you know, marketing, the way I think of marketing is, are you telling people that you exist, whether you are using social media or you're calling people? You know, how are artists managing your time? I mean, talking about your schedule just earlier, right before this you know, section, I mean, you have to be so tight on your schedule. Like, you need to factor in your transition time, your preparation time, your teaching time, you know, planning your routes, what's going to be most efficient from going A to B without without, telling people, hey, I'm going to be 30 minutes late. Nobody wants somebody doing that, Accountability. So what I'm bringing up is if there's one thing that you could say about the professional side of being a dancer, the business side of it, what would that be? I know that we both know there's a lot, but if there was one thing you could kind of, focus on, what would it be?
I would say really focus on accountability and dependability, because that's where so many young artists fail. They think there's only a very few people that can kind of do whatever they want in the dance industry because they're so talented. I could probably think of like 5 people, but besides that, you can't have an attitude. You have to show up early. You have to be humble. You have to work hard. Like, that's way, way more important when I'm talking to younger students about teacher training, because that's when so many people fall off, is being held accountable for their actions. And you have to think about what are you marketing? What is your product? What is your niche? My niche is health and wellness, and my product is my story and how I make people feel and how I connect in that sense. But that's not going to be somebody else's niche.
Yeah, it's like you people have to know what it is. What is that? What's making you a little bit different from everyone else? For me, like in this area, like it's advanced partnering, and then the other thing I've been really focusing a lot about being a freelance dancer, the business components. For me, I call it the 5 T's. What are you doing with your talent? Great, you're a dancer. Wonderful, but what else can you do to make money? When that dance job doesn't come through, can you bartend? Can you bar back? Can you, do editing for someone's stuff, for their
that's why
bios?
That's why I help DJ. So I DJ'd on the side. I picked that up in college because my dad and my uncle are musicians, and so I picked that up. And then I also got my degree in health and wellness, so I could, if the dancing doesn't work out, I can work in physical therapy. I can work as a trainer. I can do something in that sense as well to fill my day hours if I wanted to.
And that's a smart mindset. It's preparation. It's knowing, hey, that there is a limit on certain things, whether it's the body or even, the mind. Sometimes we get exhausted or tired. Even exhaustion always creeps in. You know what I'm saying? Is that sometimes we may feel really passionate about one thing and say, oh God, I really just need a break. Maybe it's 6 months to rejuvenate my mind, my creativity before I come back to keep teaching.
Yeah, and that's where I'm at right now in my life, because there was a lot of things I was neglecting as far as developing Joey the human, and that's what I'm doing right now, and finding that balance between, work and family and love life and personal life and things like that. So I think the number one thing in dance is just keep doing you, and there's a place for everybody. You just got to find that place. And doors don't open themselves, and also at the same time, people don't walk through those doors by themselves. You have to go through it once you open that door, because it might be only open for so long. And whatever decision you make, don't have any regrets. Enjoy every moment of it.
Wonderful. Joey, thank you so much for your time. I really and truly appreciate this. And before you go, what are some places people can find you? I mean, I know you have a Facebook account and you have your website. So if you can mention a couple things, that'd be wonderful. I'm also going to put it at the very end, at the description of this video once it's posted for Saturday. So if you can share with them, that'd be great.
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook. So look me up on Facebook at Joey Hernandez. You can find me on Twitter at jhernandezdance. You can find me on Instagram at Joey_Hernandez23. I do have a YouTube page, which I need to post more on, so there's a lot of older material on that, so I'm going to try to update that. And then I'm also in the works of finishing my Dance for Change website, which will have all my information on there, so it'll be danceforchange.com. dance-for-change.com. So I've been working on that for a while, but I'm kind of a perfectionist when it comes to websites, so it's been a process to get that out there. And then there's also resiliencedancecompany.com. So a lot of different web pages and places that you can find my material.
Perfect. Joy, I look forward to seeing you in person once you come back here to this to the Milwaukee region, and we can go out for some coffee or just talk. And thank you again for your time. I really look forward to spreading your story and your message and what you're doing with movement.
Yeah, we better link up, man, since I'm going to be up there on Tuesdays and Thursdays now this semester.
For sure. We'll see each other on a regular basis. So be well, Joey, and safe driving wherever you are.
All right. Thanks, Edwin, and have a great day. And keep doing what you do. I appreciate everything that you do and the advocate that you are for Wisconsin dance and the Milwaukee community. And, you know, the way you're interviewing people, I think, is a great thing. And everything you've accomplished, it's definitely, you know, you deserve it because you're a great guy, and just keep educating as many people as possible because that's how we get the wheel turning, and that's how dance moves forward as an art form, is educating the next generation.
That's so true. Very, very well said. Thank you, Joey, and we'll touch soon. We'll touch base soon, okay?
All right, take care and have a great night.
Yep, be well.
Hey everyone, this is Edwin Olvera from Edwin Olvera Dance and Creative Services. And in this particular video, I'm going to show you guys how to make a simple and effective shadow puppetry show using everyday items such as do-do-do and your iPhone. Let me tell you about the basics. Here's what you're going to need for this particular project. You're going to need an iPhone that has an app called LED Torch, which is going to help utilize this light right here from the iPhone to be the projector.